Hi, baddies. Welcome back to another episode of Terra's Baddies Club. I am so excited because I have my new laptop now. Thank you for everyone that gifted the money for me to get a new laptop, with also my soon to be nonprofit starting that. Today, we are also starting to file all the paperwork. We got it all in order. My tax person was saying that, okay, we're going to file. It's a little bit harder with the government shutdown right now, but we're going to see what we can do. And I'm so excited. So I just want to thank everyone for gifting that money to me. It has been just such a dream to start my nonprofit. And so you guys are really helping me in building my dream and helping other survivors out there. So I cannot thank you enough for that. I have also been working on more episodes now, but I had to take a little bit of a break because my computer broke and so my world fell apart. My book proposal that I've been working on, I had to stop working on that. And I'm going to say when I get my book out there, it will probably be about a year, guys. Be a little bit patient. And I'm so excited because this has been one of the hardest things that I've been working on because it's taken so much out of me. I feel when I work on my book that I go into this deep depressive state because so much trauma is coming out of me and I don't know how to deal with it. Today, we are going to talk about someone who wrote their own book, but their book is more so on the fictional side. I am so excited to bring on Emily Singer. Emily Singer is an American writer, director, and producer. She was raised in Calabasas, California. She's the founder and CEO of Elsi, a creative agency and production company. Doll Baby is her debut novel. So we are going to talk about that today. And so let's welcome Emily. Welcome, Emily. I'm so happy to have you. It's crazy how we met because it was the first day that we went on lockdown for COVID.
That was actually so crazy. And thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, of course. So I just love how we met, and we met through Evelyn. She is just a great person. She's been on the podcast before as well. And I love what you're doing now with being a writer. You've produced a lot of things. Can you tell me just from your own words of what you're doing now so that I'm not butchering it up? And, you just have so many amazing talents that I feel like I've known you through many different talents.
Thank you. And yes, Evelyn is the best. I always say when people ask, like, my first response is that I'm a writer, just because that's been like my childhood dream and just something that I very much resonate with. But I do as well have a production company and creative agency called Elsi, and I do a ton of content. I do social media things with brands. I do things through my own social media. I work with brands. I've directed, produced commercials, campaigns, short films, all sorts of things. I am writing for TV and I just published my first book. So overarching, I'm an artist and a creative. But yes, I kind of find myself in many different pockets and I don't like to limit myself.
That's what happens in the creative community as well. I feel like there's so many different outlets for that creative outlet, and then they kind of intertwine and intersect in different ways. But what does Elsie specialize in?
So I've worked with brands. I started it 2 years ago and I've worked with different brands, skincare, fashion brands, hair care lines, and we do a ton of branded content and organic social. I never actually set out to be running social for brands. That's not something I really wanted to do, but I love creative directing and I love storytelling and I love working with brands, especially brands that I'm interested in myself. It was a natural progression into it, based off like all the previous jobs I've had, and it's been really special to just work with founders and be able to like execute a creative vision that we both align on, and it's been really fun and I love it. I think long term LC will be really just like a hub and a home for all of my creative projects, whether that be like writing projects, creative directing projects, social media. Like that is just kind of the home where everything will kind of live in.
I love that. And what first sparked your love of storytelling and your desire to become a writer?
I was like the most voracious reader as a kid. I read like sometimes 3 books a day. I wish I could do that now. I read a lot, and I remember when I was a kid, and I always reference this, but like I won a writing competition. I must have been in like kindergarten or first grade, and it was a poem competition, and whoever had the best poem, I guess, got it published in the local newspaper. And I wrote this poem. I think it was about horses. And I remember it was published and I was so excited. It was in the newspaper and everybody was really proud of me. It sounds so silly, but it was just kind of my like childhood dream, I guess. I just always wanted to be a writer. And I think what I love about writing is there's just no rules. Like everybody has a different style, everybody has a different voice. I think everyone can be a writer. So yeah, and it's just a muscle you flex. Like you have to practice it like any other skill.
I love that. I love that. I was a kid that would go on vacation. I would always bring all these books and I would read them all. But I was a Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen girl that read all those novels.
Those were amazing. And the TV shows too.
Oh, yes. It was so great. And then do you feel that some of that earlier childhood, writing kind of inspired what is coming out now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, so I just published my first book. It's on pre-order now, and it'll be in hands probably by early January. That idea was something I had many years ago. I would say like end of middle school, early high school, and I was just kind of thinking about it. I was like, that'd be a cool project. And then years later, obviously, I finished it. But I think a lot of my childhood has informed a lot of my writing because I write a lot about growing up in LA and in Calabasas. And I write actually a lot of like young adult type of novels or scripts. So I do think my childhood has definitely informed a lot of my creativity, especially.
Yes. And I just honestly remember hearing from Evelyn here and there. She's like, oh, she's friends with so and so. She's friends with so and so. So I've heard a little bit of like, oh my gosh, you did grow up in quite a not normal, like not say the Midwest.
Yeah, growing up in LA and Calabasas is definitely not a typical circumstance. And I think I realized that at a very early age. You grow up very quickly, and it's just you're in such different social scenes and different bubbles. But I think because my parents are so amazing, I was able to stay super grounded, which is great.
Yeah, no, well, and it's funny because like I've never heard from you who you know. I've just heard from Evelyn because she's your mom's friend, and mom's friends are always like, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
and amping you up too. So I just love it.
so
So
sweet.
yeah, and with this creative space and everything, how does balancing writing work with all your other projects? Because just asking for myself, it's hard to find a balance in life.
Definitely something I'm working on. I would say I'm very project oriented. So I have a list of priorities and I always have something that's like pending kind of and something that, is up next. So I would say and I've thought about it, maybe I should just stick to writing instead of doing content and social and all these things, but I just love being creative and I love being collaborative. So when things come up, I get really excited. But I think as I've gotten older, I've also been able to say no to certain things and prioritize others. But I definitely think I'm a little bit more fluid. Like I don't really have a everyday schedule. I would love to say I write 3 hours a day every day at this time, but I just don't. Like I'm somebody who could sit and write all day for 6 months straight and then not write for 3 months, which isn't really the best practice, but that's just how I am. I'm a very intuitive writer. So I do spend a lot of time working on writing projects, whether that be obviously the book has taken me 2 years, about 2 years. So finishing that was a huge deal for me because now I'm able to move on to some other projects. In the midst of doing the book, I had other scripts that I was working on. I had a ton of projects, things that I directed, things that, I ran social for companies that I worked with. So I would say my work has become a lot more project based where I'll put something first. And then once that's done, I'll be able to move on to something else.
I feel like you're a lot like me in that aspect. I could just focus and zero in on one project. Like when I want to write, I could write. When I don't want to write, I can't do it. I have to do other creative projects to kind of fuel other things. and then I eventually come back to that one thing. And then I feel like, did you ever have any deadlines with your project?
But yeah, I mean, I've definitely have deadlines, especially with social projects. Like if I go to a shoot and, or I have to film something, like I definitely have to abide by deadlines. I think when I have deadlines, I'm usually very on it. When I don't have deadlines and when I have to give myself deadlines, it's a little bit more difficult. But I do that too. Every month, I'll write a list of like goals and priorities. And I just know they're going to get done. I don't freak myself out. I'm just like, you know what? I want this to be done at this time. This is my goal for this month, and I just kind of work through it. I feel like everything eventually gets done. I'm not a procrastinator. I sit down. I'm trying to create more of a ritualistic kind of program for myself. I'm reading The Artist's Way right now, so I do my morning pages, and I'm trying to develop a ritual because I notice that when I get the most writing done, I'm either in like a very beautiful space, or like I've lit, like had candles lit, or sage, or I'm looking at Pinterest first and getting inspired. Like I have these kind of steps to get me in the mood. Or I read something, but then there are other times where like I'll shoot out of bed and I'm just like it's coming out and I can't stop it. And it's funny. I always read this quote. It's by Robert Haas. It says it's hell writing and it's hell not writing. Like I forget the exact wording, but it's like the only place to be in is having written. Like the best place to be in is having written. So I love the feeling of finishing something or like writing something that I'm proud of and I'm excited about, but the process can be challenging for sure.
Okay, now I'm just asking this. This isn't on my list of questions that I gave you, but have you had to have other people's feedback and then adapt that into the book?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine if I just wrote a book and just published it without anyone looking at it. I've had editors, my mom's read every draft, literally every draft. And my mom's so funny. Her only note will be like, make it sexier, which is amazing. Because I'm like, it's pretty sexy as is. And that's for like other projects too. She's made that note, which cracks me up. But yeah, no, I have a lot of, I'm not somebody who hoards my writing. I'll actually ask, there are a couple go-tos that I have of friends or family or people before editors look at it. But it depends. Like I have scripts that I've gotten notes on. I have a script that I've probably had over 100 drafts of. It's definitely, I mean, editing and having other people give feedback is a huge part of the creative process. And I think you have to get to the point where you really like it. It's not really about other people. And you get to the point where you have to stop editing. But I was super lucky actually because my publisher for this book for Doll Baby, it's called Thought Catalog. They don't do a lot of heavy plot editing. They do mainly proofreading and they give feedback, but they're not people that are going to sit and sift through. Like they want you to tell your voice or have like share your voice and tell stories the way you want to tell them, which was really cool for me because I feel like it took me time to really develop my voice and really feel confident with it. So it is kind of a trustful exercise of like, okay, here's the book. I love it. My friends love it. My mom loves it. My editor loves it. I hope people love it. But like, that's what's important to me is that.
I love that. And then speaking about the sexiness, what is Doll Baby about?
So it's about one girl through 10 years from 15 to 25. And it's very much about her relationships with men, with her friends, with herself specifically. And it's not me, but it does draw on a lot of my early adolescent experiences from those ages or the last 10 years even. Um, and it's super fun because the people who know me really well and read it are going to find the similarities, but there are also a lot of differences. And I made sure to do that because I wasn't setting out to write an autobiography. But I think a lot of writers obviously draw on their experiences, whether that be of LA, Eve Babbage, Joan Didion, like all these writers really immerse themselves in the culture of Los Angeles, which I feel like I did a lot of the time, but from my own perspective of growing up in the valley and then like making my way out to the city and finding myself in the world of like Hollywood and management companies and agencies and all these things because I worked in TV development, I worked in writers' rooms, so I had those kind of early experiences. But Jolie's her own entity for sure. Like she has a brother, I have sisters, and that's like a huge part of her story. So she's totally different than me, and she's fun and she's messy and cool. I love her character.
I love that. If I was writing about someone, but with my persona and perspective, I would just throw in some crazy stuff and be like, did that happen or did that not happen?
For sure. Look, there are guys that will read this and be like, oh, know who that's about. But you know what? To me, I'm like, thank you for the inspiration. I've learned lessons in life and I'm happy to share them through this character and I'll continue to do that. And I feel like, I don't know. I always set out to be, I never set out to be a role model, but I always wanted to be. I have like a lot of little cousins, I have younger sisters. And it's like, I'm the first to be honest and say, like, these are the mistakes I've made. This is what I've done. This is what I've learned from it. And I'm not afraid to share that of myself because it's going to help somebody. And if people judge me for that, then that's their problem. That's not what people think of me is not my.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that I'm excited to read this story because it reminds me of this novel I read when I was younger about this girl going to LA and just kind of living out her experience. I know it's different, like that you live there, but it just kind of reminds me of that book. And I just remember the sunglasses on the title, and it was my
Was
favorite
it
book.
was it Sunburn?
Yes.
I read it.
Okay. I read it a long time ago, but it just the vibe. I was like thinking about the vibe and I was like, "Oh, this kind of gives me that book vibe in a sense."
Yeah, well, people love LA, and LA is such like a character in itself, obviously. And I'm lucky to have grown up here, and I'm proud of where I grew up, and I'm proud of being a Valley girl. So it's fun. I realized it was like people will like people who are from other places, the Midwest or East Coast, like they don't live here, so they don't know what it's like. And I feel like it is such a different experience to grow up here. And I didn't really dive into that too much. Like I didn't dive into the who's and the what's and where I was and what I was doing or use that for Jolie's story, but because obviously I have lots of stories that I could tell about that, but I fictionalized it in a way where it's reminiscent of certain people, but I don't really write about my friends. Like no character I would say this is this specific person. Actually, my friend Sydney, her character is pretty like I have one character that's pretty based on Sydney and she knows and she's excited about it.
I love that so much. Now, in the book, there's a moment of choosing yourself. Was there a moment that you had to choose yourself in your real life?
Yeah, I feel like I've had to choose myself many times. And I think that was like the biggest lesson that I was meant to learn in terms of relationships because I've had different relationships that all taught me a lot. And I think it all kind of was getting me back to like my authentic self and who I am. And there were definitely times where there were times where I didn't choose myself and there were times where I put myself in positions where I was not in the right relationship or not, and it wasn't not the right relationship because it might have been right for that time in my life for the lessons I needed to learn and the growth that I needed to have because it's all getting you to where you're going. But I think what I've learned in the last 10 years or 15 years, whatever, since I was young and started, meeting people and dating is that people will treat you the way that you treat you. And when you're not choosing yourself, you give other people a chance to also not choose you. And when you choose yourself, you give other people who want to choose you a chance to choose you. Like you're your own entity. You're not chasing anyone. You're not chasing validation. You're not, needing the guy to text you back. You're just you. They're them. You can accept them for who they are and, and honestly enjoy them for who they are instead of like needing them to do certain things for you or to fill your cup. You're filling your own cup. And I feel like in Jolie's story, she kind of gets to that point where she has really a lot of trials and tribulations in relationships. And then she finally comes full circle and is like, I spent so much time fixating on all these different people when I was supposed to focus on myself and not in a selfish way or like a self-centered way. I'm a, I'm a very giving person. Jolie gives a lot of herself to people, love, affection, admiration, her time, her energy. But I think her journey was really having to say, like, this isn't for me anymore. Like I'm good with me and I don't need anyone. I want to be with somebody who I want there, not who I need.
Yeah, I think that every girl needs to learn that at one point, or they're never going to be happy on their own or happy just as a whole, in a sense.
And they're going to be really reliant on whoever their partner is to fulfill certain emotional needs and we've all been through that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. There's like a saying that goes, men are born at the bottom of the mountain and they're meant to climb the mountain, and women are born at the top of the mountain and they're meant to remember that they were born at the top of the mountain. So it's kind of like women are meant to remember their worth, kind of. And I think in a lot of situations, whether it's career, and it's not everyone. Like I have friends who met the love of their life at 15 or, skyrocketed in their career really early. Like everybody has a different story. And I believe nobody gets out of this world or this life unscathed. Like there's always going to be a challenge that somebody faces. But the point is really that life is happening for you, not to you. And can you like behave in that way? Can you say every time you're upset about something, somebody doesn't choose you, somebody's not, acting in a way that you want them to, like, only you can only control yourself, can't control anybody else. And all these things are happening. Life is mirroring me to get me to see something that I'm meant to see.
Yeah, yeah, I've honestly dealt with that honestly this past couple years of trying, like, I feel like there's always like moments where I'm like, oh, I'm on top of the hill. And then you get into that relationship, I get a little codependent, and then I forget myself in that, and then I have to remind myself of who I am. And so this year it's been like, okay, let's get my nonprofit going because that has been always on my heart and my mind. And so if I that, I believe like that's well, I am doing things that make me happy because it is making me incredibly happy just building that.
It's amazing. And that's also service to others. And that's a big thing that I think we've forgotten, like, the art of in this society. It's very me focused. It's how, you're talking to the camera all day. People are, you're grinding at work, you have your phone, like everything's very me focused. So I think, and I've met a lot of people lately, and that just goes to show, I really think you match with people with the energy you're vibrating at. But people who are others focused are the happiest people. Like, if you are focusing on what you can give instead of what you can get, you're always going to get more back. It's like inevitable. And also, I think, or I heard something the other day that was really interesting. It was like God gave you two hands, one so you could take care of yourself and one so you could take care of others, which I love. I think
I love
that's
that. That's so great. I love that. Well, I also think that, in your story, you talk about the ages 15 to 25, and that is such an important time frame in your life. Can you talk about why that was important to you?
I think that was the most interesting time. And actually, that's not true. I think my life is very interesting in present day, and I try to really focus on the present. And it's one of the quotes I have in the first page of my book is a Kurt Vonnegut quote, and it's all about like looking back. And as human beings, we always tend to look back, but I think in looking back at those years, they were so pivotal for me. And I was fun and I was mischievous, and I wanted to show, not that Jolie is me, but I showed this kind of version of me that like did it all and had fun and was sad and happy. And girls are so funny. Like, I have this quote in the book. It's like, girls are wild creatures. Like, we can be laughing and crying in the same sentence. And it's so true. Like, girlhood is so funny in that way, where, again, like you said, like, you're on the bottom of the mountain, then you're on the top. Like, and that's just life. You're riding out the highs and the lows. But I think 15 to 25 is a very pivotal age for many women in terms of just growth and trajectory and finding out who you are and who you want to be, not who people have told you to be or who you think is like this good version of you. That I struggled a lot with perfectionism when I was a kid. Like, I was very much like, I have to be perfect. And then I would swing the opposite pendulum and be like, I don't care about anything. I'm going to do whatever I want. And I was terrible with authority. So like, I just feel like I like to think that we're all messy and imperfect and insecure in a lot of ways, and we're all growing, and this is all like technically our first time, at least in this body, whatever you believe. So I wanted to show a girl that was really real and wasn't afraid to kind of be honest about things. And I feel like all the books that I love, like, I read this book this year called My Year of Rest and Relaxation by, her name's Oteza, I'm gonna mess up her name, but I think it's Mofagesh. And it was this really kind of like a messy, dark female character. And I just thought she was so fascinating. And I couldn't stop reading the book. And I think that's why we love books so much and why we love TV shows so much, because we see these characters that are so messy and they're wild and they're doing horrible things. But it's like, that is human beings are not black and white. Like, I like to consider myself a very kind, good person, but I've done things in my life that, were they always kind and good and perfect? No. Like, I mess up. Everybody messes up. So why is that such a bad thing? Why is it so frowned upon? You're supposed to make mistakes. And I feel like girlhood is messy, and it's different for everybody. But even my mom was like, she loved the book, and she was like, there were times where it felt very young. Even when I reread 15, I'd say 15 to 17, her voice is very young. And I did that on purpose because I wanted you to grow with her. But by the time you get to like 18, 19, it's just interesting because you could be a 6-year-old, 50-year-old, 7-year-old woman, and you were once a girl. and you remember that. So I think it's very relatable.
I think so as well. And I think that there's just so many interesting things in this book. I also, talking about hot and messy, I think back to Taylor Frankie Paul, and I just love watching her, and I'm rooting for her always. Do you know who she is? From the Secret Lives of the Mormon Wives.
Not a reality TV girl.
Okay.
I wish I was, but I'm just not. I'm such like a fiction and I love scripted TV, but I'll have to look her up.
Yeah, she's going to be the new Bachelorette.
Amazing.
I'm so excited for that. But she basically, you see her relationship play out on TV with a toxic relationship. She also did light swinging, and the more she's comes from the Mormon religion, and so she's very messy. But like it's been great to see her grow, and you're always like kind of rooting for her because you love the authenticity. I can't talk right now. Yes, you see that in her, and she also like owns her messiness. And I think that's something that you kind of did with this character. She owns that messiness, and she like flourishes in it.
Well, I talk about that. It's funny you recognize that. You're obviously so intuitive. I talk about that at the end of the book too, because she has this kind of recollection of being in this nail salon when she was a kid and she saw this girl. She was like 11 and had braces and was like kind of nerdy and getting her nails like this ugly shade of pink, like bubblegum pink. And she is sitting across from this like girl who's so adult, and she's like, she must be like 18 or 19, and she has like long red nails, and she looks sexy. And she says, she's like, I saw this like messiness in her and this boldness and how comfortable she was in her own skin, and I wanted to like berate her with questions. And I think I always felt that way as a kid, because I think when you grow up in LA, everything in LA is over sexualized. Everything in LA is fun and sexy and glamorous. So I had that in me as a kid, and my parents were also very honest and very real, and they were very aware. They were never like, not my kid. They were like, yeah, my kid. And they parented me that way. So I was always I'm still very curious. I ask a lot of questions, but I was a very curious child. Like I wanted to experience everything and I wanted to be an adult when I was like 10. Like that's all I wanted. And it's funny because as I got older, I was like, I just want to be a kid. Like I want to go color and draw. And I love being around my friends' kids. A couple of my friends are starting to have kids. And I'm like, this is so fun. We just get to play at the park. Like that's amazing. And I think part of me being a creative, like writing and directing and doing all the things I'm doing, is me being a kid in a way, because it kind of lets my inner child shine. It's what I love to do. It's like I get to play dress up. I get to, I don't know, draw up things and create things out of my mind and see them come to life. Like that is to me the coolest thing.
I love that so much. Is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you want me to ask you?
I loved your questions towards the end about like the writing process or
Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, okay, I'm currently creating my own book too. So, I
amazing.
would love to hear about your writing process and like just how you went about even from the start. Did you create a proposal or did you just kind of get into the book and just go with it?
Well, I'm so excited for you about your book. I'd love to hear what it's about. I actually wrote 15, the first chapter, as a short story many years ago, and it changed a lot. But I wrote it as a short story, and then I thought I would do it as a short film. But I always had this idea of one girl through 10 years. It was actually before the movie Boyhood came out, but that's kind of similar concept of like one person. And I thought it was so interesting on screen, but I was like, that'd be also such a cool book. And I felt like I hadn't really read that before. So at first I wrote 15, and then I wrote 21 randomly as like another standalone short story. It was just kind of something I wrote. And then I started filling it in, and I was like, this is cool. Like I'm getting there. And I would say I had like half a book when I spoke to Thought Catalog, and I'd pitched other publishing companies, but Thought Catalog was someone or a company that I loved because I have two friends that had published books with them. I love Brianna Wiest and all her books. And I just think they're a very cool, innovative, like independent publishing company that really caters to the writers. Like it's really about the writers and their story. They're not trying to change it. They just want you to share your own voice. And yeah, I loved my situation with them. They have the most amazing cover art, in my opinion. Like they actually I had a couple ideas for the cover art, and we went through like 40 iterations, but they sent me this girl in a martini glass, and I thought that was so cool. And originally it had like an olive, it was like a dirty martini, but we made it work, and we had different colors, themes, and it was funny because I was wearing red all the time, and I was like, I just want it to be red. I think red is so cool. So the process of like start to finish. I mean, it's been so many years, but yeah, it was fun. I loved the process.
I love that. And do you have any advice to anyone that is a new writer starting off? What advice would you give to them?
I think what really helped me was like identifying. I think the hardest thing is finding your voice. And then the second hardest thing, in my opinion, is getting over the feeling of like, will anyone care and will anyone like it? Because at the end of the day, like, if you want to be a writer, you have to constantly be writing, you have to constantly be reading, and you have to feel really confident in your voice, like anything else, because it is subjective. Like, there will be people who read my book and are like, this is my favorite book, hopefully. And there will be people who read it that are like, this isn't for me. And that's cool and that's fine. I read a ton of books that I'm like, I love that one, or I loved things about that one, or I have a ton of writers that I have a roster where I'm like, these writers, I love their voice for very specific reasons. So I think my voice developed over time by writing a lot, by reading a lot, and just figuring out. And it's funny when you read my book, I think you'll be like, this is kind of like talking to me a little bit, or like reading my diary a little bit, even though it's obviously based on a fictional character. But so much of me is in the book, whether it's through one of her friends or one of the guys or her family. Like, a lot of who I am, I think, shines through. And I think that's what makes it really authentic. And there are projects that I have that are not going to be as close to me. Like, I have a TV pilot that I would say the character's not really like me, but there are similar themes. Again, these like messy, kind of imperfect, propulsive female characters.
Where can we find your book? Where can we pre order it? Where is it available?
Right now it's on Thought Catalog, on Shop Catalog, their shop page. It's on pre-order for delivery hopefully in early January. It's just going through the necessary final edits and then printing. But yeah, it should be ready in January, and then it will be on Amazon once it's
Beautiful. And then where can we find you on social media to follow you on social media?
on Instagram. I'm Emily Singer with three Y's on Emily. And on TikTok, I think it's M Sing with two G's, Sing with two G's. And then my website is elsiecreative.com, ELS.
Beautiful. And I love your Instagram and TikToks. I love it when I see your TikToks and I'm like, oh, she's doing this. Oh, that food looks great. Oh, I'm hungry now.
So funny. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. And I'm excited to read your book when it does come out. I'll
Thank
have to
you.
do another one.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode of Terra's Baddies Club with Emily Singer. Please check out Doll Baby, pre order her book, help a girl out, help her get her book sales up, and also support an artist. We love supporting a creative artist and writer in this space. And so until next time, I am Terra Newell, and thank you guys so much for listening.